now present For the Record.
Welcome to For the Record. I'm Will Kenneally. It's been quite a busy week here in Wisconsin in terms of news, and we join you here from the UW-Madison campus, where as we record this, protesters remain camped out on Library Mall to protest the Israel-Hamas war. Now, earlier in the week, former President Donald Trump was in Waukesha for his second visit to the Badger State this year. But we begin in Mount Horeb, where an armed student was shot and killed outside a middle school.
Can't believe that this has happened here. You know, you always see these things happen, but you don't think it's going to happen to your students.
Shock, confusion, disbelief.
This is not something that you do every day. They're learning, they're scared. All the teachers are scared. The teachers are there keeping them safe.
Then finally,
Relief. A lot of relief, yes.
that was the day for thousands of terrified Mount Horeb parents. They spent hours waiting to be reunited with their kids after learning of an active shooter in their school district.
Oh, hey, there's an active shooting going on in the school. And I'm like, what school? The middle school. That's my kid's school.
My wife is a teacher at the high school in the district, so she messaged me and said the school is on lockdown, and I asked if there were shots fired, and she said yes.
I mean, your knee-jerk reaction, of course, is to just drive to town.
That's exactly what many parents did, ending up at several different reunification locations set up by the school district.
My daughter first called me before they were even released from the school, and it was just screaming and chaos in the background.
She just said, "Mom, I love you. I'm okay. I can't talk."
At the same time, their kids were sitting locked down in their classrooms for hours.
The subject is down. Officers are okay.
Why is it that they're still there hours after? And then who's feeding them? Are they getting anything to drink?
But after hours of not knowing when they'd get to hug their kids again, they finally got the reunion they'd been desperately waiting for.
Relief, just instant relief. And then it's, okay, now we wait to hear what goes from here on.
So I want to bring now into the conversation our Maddie Heimsch, who was there that day. Maddie, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course.
So you roll up to the scene on Wednesday. What's it like?
Yeah, so I got there about a half an hour after the message came out that there was a lockdown. I got up, obviously really barricaded that school district. Parents could only get like a block or two from the school, and so I met a group of parents there. That's as far as I could get as well. A lot of parents on their phones, they were trying to make phone calls to their kids, some going to voicemail, some going through, and of course police just blocking off the area as parents were asking question after question.
Yeah, so you get there around noonish, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
How did the rest of the day unfold?
Yeah, so the day unfolded, I couldn't even give you a number of emergency vehicles that were surrounding the district. There was a med flight helicopter, just dozens and dozens of police cars. So as the day unfolded, other schools that weren't the middle school, but that were, of course, like within a block of the middle school, were being released. The school was putting out Facebook updates saying, if your kid is a first grader at this school, we're taking them here. So it happened in phases as those parents and kids were being reunited.
And so in the day's sense, we're recording this on a Friday certainly, but in the day's sense, what have we heard so far from the district on their response?
Yeah, so the district gave as much information as they could Wednesday evening around 6, I think it was. And there were still kids in lockdown when they were giving this announcement. They were releasing the middle school around 7, I think. So those kids were in lockdown for 6-7 hours, I would say. So they were releasing as much information as they could, obviously an ongoing investigation, but they told us that the alleged shooter was the only person injured, obviously deceased, and that there were several officers on leave, as is procedure, but no other students were injured. They were all safe. That's essentially what they could tell us.
Yeah, and just you've been back in the community since then. How have parents been? How's the community been?
Yeah, so parents have really been surrounding the district as opposed to staying out of it. I was there last night along with Catherine. There was a whole community event happening in the high school, so parents, kids, community members, and a lot of community organizations were volunteered to be there. I know there's a therapy dog organization that brought the dogs in, just kind of a place for all the community members to really come together, have those conversations, learn from professionals about how to have those conversations with your kids after they go through a traumatic event. So no school Thursday, no school Friday. They should be gearing up for Monday, but a lot of community coming together.
Well, Maddie Heimsch, you've been covering this greatly for us so far. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Will.
And we'll be right back after this.
This portion of News 3 Now is sponsored by Madison Gas and Electric.
It's the Memorial Day Super Sale at Denver Mattress. Right now, save $100 on every 1,000 you spend. Or check out the Summit for only $299.99, plus 6 years no interest and free shipping. The Memorial Day Super Sale on now at Denver Mattress.
To everyone who enjoys a feel-good meal, we're crafting one for you, Wisconsin style.
We're talking handcrafted, cooked to order,
scoop to perfection goodness.
More like greatness.
A snuggle up in the booth, share a bite kind of meal.
A fill you up, heart and soul kind of meal.
Come treat someone you love to a meal they're sure to love.
One always served with a smile.
That comes from the heart.
From Wisconsin with love.
Welcome to Delicious!
I'm Scott the Window Guy with AHT Wisconsin Windows. Our solid core. Sorry everyone, I get a notification every time I get a positive review online.
Makeup.
Thanks, Dawn. We think our windows are pretty great too.
Take two.
I'm Scott the Window Guy with AHT Wisconsin Windows. Our solid core, composite frame, triple pane windows are worth a positive review at scottthewindowguy.com.
Cut! Somebody give me his phone.
Jen? Seriously?
You want to feel important, to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things.
We know. We felt that way too.
And that's why we joined the Army National Guard. Take on your legacy.
Visit nationalguard.com to find out more.
Welcome to Badgerscape Design and Landscape. We offer a full range of landscaping services, from design to maintenance. Our professional team is dedicated to meeting all your landscaping needs. Call us at 608-295-1446 or visit badgerscapedesign&landscape.com.
It's the Memorial Day Super Sale at Denver Mattress. Right now, save $100 on every 1,000 you spend. Or check out the Summit for only $299.99, plus 6 years no interest and free shipping. The Memorial Day Super Sale on now at Denver Mattress.
Welcome back. We're joining you here on the UW-Madison campus after a week of pro-Palestinian protests. Now, organizers are asking the university to make concessions on a series of demands, including in part disclosure of where the UW Foundation invests its money and severing ties between the university and Israeli institutions.
As the chancellor of a major university, she does have leverage to pressure the UW Foundation to disclose its divestment, and yet she has refused to commit to using any of that leverage to meet the demands of students.
Now, throughout these protests and discussions, this continues to be a crucial issue, especially on the political left. A wing of the Democratic Party continues to push the Biden administration to toughen its stance on Israel. And this is also happening against the backdrop of an election. Here's former President Donald Trump speaking in Waukesha on Wednesday.
New York was under siege last night, and these people, first they were intense, and the person that heads up Columbia University was a great school. It's been, badly damaged, I think, reputationally. But the person that heads it up, a woman, she waited so long. But the police came in, and in exactly 2 hours, everything was over. It was a beautiful thing to watch. New York's finest.
And joining us now for a recap of what we heard on the campaign trail is UW Lacrosse political science professor Anthony Chergosky. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Will.
So first, I want to ask you, what do you make of yet another Trump visit?
There's going to be a lot more where that came from, because Wisconsin looks to be one of the decisive, if not the decisive, states in the 2024 election. When we look at the polling, Wisconsin is in a very familiar position. The polls in Wisconsin are just about dead even, indicating that Wisconsin could be, once again, the pivotal state in the 2024 election. In the last two elections, 2016 and 2020, Wisconsin has been the tipping point state, meaning that it put the winner of the Electoral College over the top in the electoral vote. And 2024 is shaping up to be another election where Wisconsin could be that tipping point state.
Now, we've seen Trump visit both Waukesha and earlier this year up in Green Bay. How important geographically are these two areas of the state to him?
Yeah, the political geography of Wisconsin is really interesting because Democrats are doing extremely well in Dane County. Meanwhile, Republicans continue to do well in rural parts of the state, and that leaves those suburban areas as the new battleground of the Trump era. And in the Trump era, the Republican Party has been losing some ground in those more densely populated suburbs. Certainly the WOW counties figure as a significant part of the Wisconsin political geography. So I can imagine that as the campaign rolls along, we're going to be continuing to hear a lot of talk about how the two parties are trying to compete in the suburbs, how the Democrats are trying to continue gaining ground in the suburbs, and how Donald Trump is potentially trying to stop the bleeding on the Republican side in the suburbs, while also maintaining his strong base of support in rural Wisconsin.
Now, there's also kind of an interesting piece of this where Trump, because of his trial, can only campaign on Wednesdays. How has that impacted the campaign so far?
Yeah, one effect of the Trump trial is that it limits the amount of time he can be on the campaign trail. So I think that is at least somewhat significant when we think about the effects of his trial. I also have to believe that his trial is going to have some effect on public perceptions of Trump, the candidate. I don't know what those effects will be. It obviously could depend on the verdict in the trial, as well as any news that comes out of the trial, any testimony, any new information. I have to believe that a former president being on criminal trial is going to have some effect on this election, but I hesitate to predict exactly what that effect will be.
Now, we've seen a lot of these pro-Palestinian protests crop up among campuses both here in Wisconsin and across the country. And now I don't necessarily want to diminish, the actual arguments that people are discussing here with these protests. But, given that, do we have a sense yet of how this will play out as an issue just on the campaign?
Yeah, this is a really long campaign. The presidential party nominations this time around were resolved quite early in the election cycle. So I don't want to downplay at all the protests and the important issues at play in the current moment, but this is also going to be a really long campaign. There's a lot of time between now and November. But certainly the Biden campaign has to be concerned about its position among young voters. There is a pretty clear generational divide in public opinion on Israel and Palestine, where older generations have a more favorable view, more sympathies towards the Israelis, and younger generations have more sympathies, more support for the Palestinian side. So there is a generational divide here, and generational divides can always be pretty messy because the older voters, the older generation votes at higher rates than the younger generation. And goodness knows, we've seen this in the two presidential candidates, that politicians tend to be on the older side. And we see that with the candidates for president. We see that in the Congress. So generational divides in politics can be quite messy. And I think that's on full display in the current political moment.
Understanding that that is likely a very important demographic, especially for Democrats, do you have a sense of what that will mean?
I have to believe that we'll look back at the 2024 election and view the young voters as being pivotal in any number of ways. If the young voters show up, that could swing the election in particular directions. If young voters stay home, that could swing the election in any number of directions. Wisconsin Democrats have really tried hard to mobilize younger voters. We saw that on full display in the 2023 Wisconsin State Supreme Court election, in which younger voters really turned out in large numbers to support Janet Protasewicz, largely because of her position on abortion. So I have no doubt that younger voters will have a huge role in the 2024 election, whether they turn out or not, which way they vote. We just don't know quite what that effect will be at this point in time.
Now, amid all of that, we've gotten some new polling numbers recently. How has that impacted the race at the top of the ticket for President Biden, former President Trump here in Wisconsin, but also that key U.S. Senate race here in Wisconsin?
Yeah, we've had a number of high quality polls come out on Wisconsin where we have seen basically a coin flip at the presidential level. Meanwhile, we've seen that Tammy Baldwin has a single digit lead over Eric Hovde. To me, a big question about the Senate race is if Tammy Baldwin can overperform Joe Biden. There aren't a lot of split ticket voters nowadays, and in the context of this particular campaign, a split ticket voter would be someone who votes for one party for president and the other party for U.S. Senate. There aren't a lot of those voters at this point in American political history, given the political divide, given the partisanship and the polarization ongoing in the American political scene. But there still are some split ticket voters. There still are some voters who are willing to split their tickets. And we'll have to wait and see just how many voters split their tickets between the presidential and the Senate race. And if so, does that work in the benefit of Baldwin? Does it work to the benefit of Hovde? It all remains to be seen at this point.
Now, Baldwin's been kind of a notable person who has been able to split some of those tickets. Do we have a sense yet of how that might happen here? Does that make a difference if she's running in a presidential year?
Yeah, that's right. In the 2018 election, there were quite a few voters who supported Scott Walker for governor and then Tammy Baldwin for U.S. Senate. It shows that Tammy Baldwin is politically savvy and she has an ability to reach out to parts of the state and demographics that are tough for Democrats. Those rural voters, those voters who have been drifting away from the Democratic Party in the Trump era. Tammy Baldwin has been able to connect to at least some extent with those voters. And that could play to her advantage this time around, though Republicans are also well aware of the fact that Baldwin is a formidable campaigner, is a strong fundraiser, and they think they've found a pretty credible candidate in Eric Hovde, someone who is able to put millions of dollars of his own money into the campaign. And also importantly, Will, Hovde is avoiding a contentious and divisive primary election. He's got a smooth path to the Republican nomination. In the past, we've seen contentious Republican primary fights that end up alienating swing voters because candidates may say or do things while competing for their party's nomination that ultimately turn off middle-of-the-road voters. I even think about the Tim Michels and Rebecca Clayfish primary in 2022 because that was an expensive campaign between the two, and then you had the candidates taking positions on abortion that were frankly out of step with public opinion, and you have to wonder if they would have taken those same positions, if they would have been pressured to publicly emphasize their positions on abortion had they not faced any competition for the Republican nomination. And then, Tim Michels really embraced Donald Trump as he was endorsed by Donald Trump. And that was a big deal in that campaign. And I think the Trump endorsement was ultimately the decisive factor in that primary election. But, embracing Donald Trump and taking positions on a highly restrictive abortion law, those things might play well in a Republican primary election, but they just don't among the suburban voters and the swing voters that decide elections nowadays in Wisconsin. So when I take Hovde very seriously as someone who could win this election, because right now he's got things falling into place for him to have a pretty clear pathway to get to the summer without having to go hard right. So it's a huge advantage for Hovde to not have to face a competitive campaign for the Republican nomination.
Professor Chergosky, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Will.
We'll be right back after this.
Spas. The Swim Spa Hot Tub and Sauna Show is coming this weekend only at the arena at the Alliant Energy Center in Madison. Rows and rows of spas, hot tubs, and swim spas. The largest display in the state. Save up to 60% on all in-stock models. This weekend only at the arena at the Alliant Energy Center in Madison.
Dad, are you certain this is gonna work?
Nothing to it.
Are you for imprint certain?
Certainty matters, like the certainty of 4imprint, your home for high-quality promotional gear, including exclusive items and brands they love. Printed perfectly and guaranteed to arrive on time. To wow your clients, nail your next event, or inspire your team, check out 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
We really need new siding.
After I get my windows. Have you tried opening ours?
We're not touching the windows until we redo the roof. It's leaking.
We are not redoing the roof without getting new gutters.
The gutters can wait till I get my bathtub.
We agreed on a shower for Mom.
But I thought...
Happy spouse, happy house.
Exactly.
Wait.
For home improvement guaranteed to make everyone happy, everyone can agree on 1-800-HANSON's because our durable, energy-efficient, and weather-resistant windows, roofing, siding, and gutters are all guaranteed for life. And our baths have a no-leak guarantee. With thousands of 5-star reviews, we're your trusted home improvement expert, exceeding expectations for 35 years. Get 50% off professional installation, or no interest and no payments for 2 full years. Offer ends soon.
It's under.
Over.
Hey, happy spouse, happy house.
Call 1-800-HANSON's. Get it done.
Spas. The Swim Spa Hot Tub and Sauna Show is coming this weekend only at the arena at the Alliant Energy Center in Madison. Rows and rows of spas, hot tubs, and swim spas. The largest display in the state. Save up to 60% on all in-stock models. This weekend only at the arena at the Alliant Energy Center in Madison.
Welcome back. We're here on the UW-Madison campus amid continued pro-Palestine protests both here and across the country. Now, you've seen our coverage on the ground here, but that comes amid a cadre of student journalists bringing us access and insight into what's going on the ground here. Now, joining us now are 2 of those student journalists, Carrol with the Badger Herald and Ava Menkes from the Daily Cardinal. Thanks so much to you both for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so how long have you guys been out here?
So we've had reporters here since Monday to now, from times of 5 a.m. to leaving at 1:30 a.m. We've been here every day. We've had people walking around, running around the city, trying to get, understand what's going on. And then we've had people obviously out here just keeping a pulse on everything going on.
Yeah, and you guys holding up already? It's been a long week.
Yeah, definitely. We've been very busy. It's the last week of classes here at UW, but I'm really proud of the student journalists and the team at the Herald for coming out and really focusing on producing great coverage of these major campus events.
Yeah, so you guys are both the management at your papers. When you hear that protest call come out on Monday, how do you start to kind of wrap your head around what coverage is going to look like?
Yeah, definitely. So when protests broke out on college campuses across the nation, we prepared a little bit, knowing it could very well happen here at UW. And when we learned that there would be a protest at UW, we ultimately sent a sign-up sheet to get people to cover specific shifts and figure out which reporters and which photographers would be present when. And we also had those who would be covering the protests fill out risk assessments, just understanding safety.
Yeah, same kind of thing you're mentioning. You guys have been out across the whole city, too.
Yeah, so for us, we kind of had a similar system. We had a sign-up sheet for photographers and then something, for reporters to kind of figure out, when can people be here for almost 24 hours a day and, be on the scene and report. And yeah, same Friday day we found out and we were like, let's just be strategic. Let's think this through. For some things you have to rush, but I think for this we really wanted to carefully think about the narrative, the framing, how do we want to approach this? This is students on our campus, they're our classmates as well, which is really important. And so we took all that into consideration while planning this. And also, our own mental health, of course, figuring out when we can go home and shower and eat. But yeah, we have sent people around the city just to figure out maybe if there's any extra tips we could get and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, I'm fascinated too. You guys have been just breaking news. I think it's the Daily Cardinal that had that video from MGR,
yes.
local city alder being
yes.
pushed out of a campus building here.
Yeah.
Any big memorable moments from this week?
That was one of them. So, a few of our reporters, the one who took that video, her name is Gabby. She's fantastic. She stood there till as long as she could and just wanted to keep a pulse on what we could find on, where the police officers were and if they were active that night. And I think that was a really memorable night just because, we had people here keeping track of things and then we had people at the Fluno Center down the street a few blocks just to figure out if there was any extra information we could get. I think another memorable moment was obviously the police crackdown, which happened Wednesday morning. We were there very, very early in the morning. We didn't fully know what to expect, and that was really, our reporters are just fantastic. I could not say enough of how appropriate they handled that situation and the thought and the consideration that they all took in the moment, figuring out what to do when there's pure chaos that breaks out. So lots of applause, and same to the Herald.
Yeah, what's been some of the highlights this week?
Yeah, I would definitely echo what Ava said about Monday night. Both newspapers had large teams of reporters and photographers here, and they were collaborating and working together to get the most
relevant information and get it out to the campus community. And then obviously also Wednesday morning, we had reporters and photographers here when the police came to Library Mall, and that was really memorable, but they handled it with grace, and we were able to get information out about that too to the campus community.
Carrol, Ava Menkes, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be right back after this.
Stanton Optical is the best value in eye care. We do the math, people. For $79, you get all this. That costs over $200 at Walmart, over $300 at LensCrafters, and over $200 at America's Best. When it comes to value, Stanton Optical is the top bird. With the best service, quality, and prices, Stanton Optical is the best value in eye care. To help you remember, I made this cheer. The value. A, awesome value. L, lots of value. You get 2 pairs of free eye exam and anti-glare lenses for only $79.
Bad sleep?
The worst.
There's really no excuse for bad sleep during the Memorial Day Super Sale at Denver Mattress. Right now, the more you buy, the more you save. Get $100 off every $1,000 you spend and watch the savings stack up. Or check out the Summit Easy on the Wallet for only $299.99. Save up to $200 on our Doctor's Choice lineup, plus 6 years no interest and free shipping. The Memorial Day Super Sale, on now at Denver Mattress.
This right here is confidence in a bottle.
It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags, and let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view, and now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
This Mother's Day is the best time to try Plexiderm at our startup price of only $14.95. Your solution is at plexidermtrial.com or call the number on your screen.
Welcome back. We're joining you once again here outside the pro-Palestinian protests on the UW-Madison campus. And if it was a busy week this past week, well, next week will certainly be busy as well. We had former President Donald Trump visit Wisconsin this past week, and this coming week, incumbent President Joe Biden will return to the Badger State. He will speak in Racine on Wednesday. And that does it for us this week. I'm Will Kenneally here on Library Mall. Have a great rest of your weekend.
This has been For the Record.